Welcome back to Cruising Sanctuary, Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, and the Task of the Tank. Kruznik X here. Last episode, we finally ran face to face with Gleipnir. Yeah, that was a clusterfuck and a half. So, unfortunately, Connie Sena, got injured, not by Gleipnir himself, but, by the kickback of him destroying her shield. We also found out, for those of us who didn't already know from reading from years of lore, of 8 years worth of lore, that the Keeper of the Entwined Serpents was originally a conscript in the Garlean army. Nice little character origin story there. Anyways, this time we are working on Gunbreaker, my personal favorite, and we will be using this bad boy the rest of the way through the Endwalker storyline, but more on that later. Anyway, let's get right down to it with the next quest in the Task of the Tank quest line. The level 88 the level 88 quest, A Pact Proven. Chris, the Elder Seedseer has grown strong enough to receive visitors. Come, we must go to Stillglade Fane at once. Okay. And we can get there quickly this way. I wish they didn't have this long-ass path into a tree root. There she is. Oh, there he is. Elder Seedseer, it fills my heart with joy to see you in better health.
I am gladdened by your presence as well, my friend. And lest you wonder, know that the conjurers found no trace of the poison in my humors. If you're ready, I would resume our search for Gleipnir.
They may be up to the task, but you are not. 'Tis one thing to engage in conversation, quite another to go gallivanting about the Twelveswood hunting a blasphemy.
I am aware you are a conjurer of surpassing skill, and would not presume to gainsay your judgment. But have my wounds not healed?
Those visible to the naked eye, perhaps. I worry that the strain of your communion with the Great One has taken a toll on you in ways we may struggle to perceive. The Great One is a being of purest ether, and you were exposed to its unbridled despair, its raw terror. There may be consequences.
I am aware of that. But Gleipnir must be stopped. Until the blasphemy is laid low, people will continue to die. How am I to carry out my duties cloistered here? How am I to deliver the forest and its people from this despair?
'Tis your duties that demand you remain. I understand your frustration, but if you were to fall in battle, if your guiding light you bear were to fade, then all Gridania would be lost. Rest, Connie. Rest and gather your strength so that when the time comes, you are fit to do what must be done. In the meantime, trust in your allies.
You are right. That said, I see no reason I cannot join in planning our next step. As you said before, conversation is quite unlike gallivanting about on a hunt. Our encounter with Gleipnir has made it plain that we cannot hope to triumph over it as we are. Only with the Great One's power can we achieve victory. When the 7th Umbral Calamity was nigh, the Great One committed a portion of its boundless strength to extend a barrier over heaven and earth, the Irmin hedge. Thus was the Twelveswood spared the worst. If we could convince it to again lend us even a small measure of that power, we would not need to fear the poison. Therefore, I believe we should pour our efforts into placating the elementals, that we might earn their favor.
The quieting worked before. It may again.
Ah, of course. You are the inheritor of Atoa's will. Raya-O and Arun praised the wisdom and bravery of you displayed that day.
Indeed, we were very nearly overrun by the creatures the Great One called to its defense, but this time is different. The Great One quakes with such fear that it cannot even bear to behold its enemy, let alone fight it. And so we must first find a way to dispel this fear that binds it, and reassure it that together we can defeat Gleipnir. Only then will it hearken to our words. I think too that we must gain a greater understanding of what drives Gleipnir. It seems to bear a resentment towards the elementals, the Great One in particular. Why?
I have pondered this question myself. Lingering memories of the person Gleipnir once was may be responsible. Reports from Razat Han suggest this is likely the case, in fact. If we could but ascertain the original identity of the blasphemy. But where are we even to begin our investigation?
You can start with my memories of the Echo, through the Echo.
You were granted a vision of Gleipnir's past. And I was there. Then I may know who he is. Or was.
As do I. The boy who trained alongside Connie in her youth.
Easura Supin. After all these years, is this what became of him?
You mentioned him briefly before. Were you close?
Easura was Pajali, like me. But he had never known his parents, and devoted himself wholly to his studies. He embraced the role the forest had bestowed upon him, and truth be told, he was a much better student than I ever was.
A fair assessment. Despite your esteemed heritage, you never took to my lessons as well as he, ever dreaming of the outside world. Stealing off into the woods more times than I can count. I could not keep watch of you over you at all hours, not even if I tried. The elder Seedseer, a rebellious spirit. I can scarce imagine it.
I resented being a Pajal. It was inconceivable to me that I could not live among the others, and I did not scruple to express my misgivings to Isumion at every opportunity. Easura was a pillar of constant support. It was thanks to his encouragement that I at last embraced my destiny and resolved to use my gifts for the greater good. We would become seed seers together, I believed, until one fateful day when we were gathering herbs in the forest at Isumion's behest. We met a wanderer hailing from a distant land who told us his beloved was with child, and that he had traveled to Gridania to beseech the Great One for a painless birth. He asked us to guide him to the Guardian Tree. However, entry into such sacred places was not ours to permit, and there was something odd about his demeanor besides. With regret, I refused him, but Easura was loath to turn away a goodly stranger in need. He agreed to guide the man despite my protestations. I ran to Isumion as fast as I could, and together we made haste to the Guardian Tree. I found the man motionless on the ground, having succumbed to the Great One's rage, and next to him was Easura, alive but unconscious. In time, he recovered and related the whole story. In truth, the man had been an adventurer, a seeker of wealth and glory, and as he had knelt to make false supplications, he lunged forward to tear a branch from the guardian tree. He was yet a child, and Aesora had no inkling of the darkness that could dwell within men's hearts. He learned the lesson that day, but the price he paid for it was great indeed. The Great One stripped Aesora of his horns, and with them the right to call himself a Prajal. I was forced to expel him from the Fane.
Before we continue the rest of the episode, I do want to say a special hello to Hijack, I want to say his name is. He says, amazing voice acting, bravo, thank you kindly. I try my best with the equipment that I have. Welcome to Cruisnick Sanctuary, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of this live stream. Let us continue. I never saw him again, nor heard a word of what had become of him, though not for lack of trying. Despite his hardships, did he remain in the Twelveswood all this time, I wonder?
He dreamed of naught else but becoming Seedseer, of a life in service to the people and the forest. He knew the weight of the responsibility and was eager to bear it. But he was deprived of that purpose by the very elementals he loved. And yet, he did not lose that will to serve, I suspect, and instead resolved to watch over the Twelveswood in his own way. I shudder to think what could have hastened his transformation into Gleipnir, as if his life was not harsh enough.
In our final conversation, Aesora confided in me that he would search for a means to calm the Great One's rage and earn absolution. To that end, he said that he would seek the counsel of the Mughals. They have called the Twelveswood home for far longer than we have, and so none are more like to have knowledge of its most hidden workings.
That comes as no surprise. He would not give up so easily on his dream. Even if the Mughals knew naught of Aesora, they may be able to help us in other ways. Will you travel to the Bramble Patch in my stead, Chris? I have faith they will accept you with their characteristic aplomb.
Yeah, plus, I'm not afraid to beat up a Mughal. That's a huge difference right there. Alright, off to the Hawthorne Hut. Alright, up we go. It's all good, Hijack. Hijack said he didn't mean to interrupt. It's all good. Do not be afraid to throw in comments whenever you want. But it was very, very good. Thank you kindly. Being a male, being born male, I do have some difficulties with certain female voices, so Connie's was probably the easiest out of all of the voices that I could have done. I still have a least favorite female voice, and it still remains her sister, Raya O. I'm glad I don't have to deal with her, but now I have to deal with Mughals. Oh, wait. Oh dear. Mughals Guard is here too. Oh well, let's talk to him.
Huh? Quite a peculiar face you have, Kupo. Familiar, too. You wouldn't be the selfsame warrior who gave the legendary Mughals Guard what for, would you? Chris, was it?
Yep.
Aha! It is an honor to meet you. Allow me to thank you personally for bringing that silliness to an end. Pukwa Pika's the name. What brings you to our neck of the Twelveswood? Why, what a pleasant coincidence! We were just discussing how we ought to go about calming the elementals, Kupo. That blasphemy with the dreadful horns has got them on edge. And for good reason. I've had to ask my personal god here to sleep with one eye open. In case you haven't noticed, the beast's corruption has been spreading all throughout the woods. Needless to say, we've all got to stand up and put the Twelveswood to rights. Raya O suggested that the Moguls contribute by scouring the forest for even the smallest signs of taint. Got to cleanse it before it gets out of hand, you know. Difficult and time-consuming work, but if it's in service to the forest, then we'll gladly do it, Kupo. Hey, I know you. You're the adventurer who gave me some of my finest scars. Coop-de-Coop of the Moogle's God. No hard feelings about the whole Hail to the King Kupo bit, I hope. Not going to call for a rematch either, in case you're worried about that. Raya O and the others cured us of our tempering, and afterwards sat us down for a stern lecture. No more calling upon good King Moogle XII for us. May he ever remain unsummoned in his royal grace and splendor. Indeed, and what better way to make up for past indiscretions than to serve the realm? Even now our kin scour the every elm of the Twelveswood, and we would be remiss not to do our part. We would be overjoyed to have a hero such as you helping us as well, if you're willing. Something tells me you have a sharp eye for the taint we seek to cleanse. Can we count on you, Kupo?
I feel like this should have been a healer quest line.
Your reputation for magnanimity is well deserved. Let us begin by moving to higher ground, that we may survey the area and locate any particularly nasty spots of blight.
No, seriously, throughout the entirety of this quest line, I feel like this should have been the healer quest line. Oh, what the frick? Yes, Hijack, this is the tank quest line for Endwalker. And what the, how the frick on a stick are you supposed to get up? Can I talk while flying? What the
Oh, you were able to make your way up here after all. I was worried you'd be stuck. Apologies for leaving you behind, but it's so easy to forget that your kind lack wings, Kupo. Now then, where was it? There! To the south! Let us cleanse that festering taint at once!
Well, that's new. Being able to speak while... I swear I can talk. Being able to speak to an NPC while flying on my mount? That is something that has never happened to me in the 8 years I've been playing this game. Festering Taint would be a great FC name. Okay, that is funny. I will give you that. But I'll stick with the Crimson Wing, thank you. Alright, let's do this. I never get tired of doing that. Apparently, Hijack had a hard time doing this quest the first time. I'm gonna be honest with you, I've literally leveled these. All my tanks are all level 90, so Gunbreaker being my favorite. Alright, let's speak with Pukwa Pika.
That was some fine work, Kupo. I dare say it's in even better shape than it was before. The others are doubtless flittering about stamping out corruption wheresoever it rears its hideous head. If I were the Great One, I would be applauding our efforts. Well, insofar as such a being without hands can clap, I suppose. How goes the tent cleansing, Coop-de-Coop? I did what I could,
But I swear, as soon as I finish with one area, two more start manifesting a fresh taint. The ability's force to heal itself is waning, and this sickness is spreading too fast for even a legion of moguls to manage. If we don't come up with a better solution soon...
The situation is more grave than we imagined, Kupo.
Oh, what do we do? We should maintain our efforts to purify the forest regardless. But since there are only so many of us, we must also help the forest to remember how to help itself. A brilliant idea, I think.
How do we go about doing that?
Well, I was just getting to that part, Kupo. I've got it! We perform the friending!
The... friending?
What in the name of good King Moogelmog the 12th, may he shower us with love and compassion and Kupo nuts, is that? Truth be told, I couldn't remember the ancient rite's name, so I just made something up on the spot, Kupo. But let's forget about that for now and move on to the stuff I do remember. It's an old ceremony, first performed when the nation of Gridania was but a spark on an idea of a random thought in its founders' heads. They knew that if they were to establish a home within the Twelveswood, that they would first have to entreat the elementals for permission. So a mage in their company found and cleansed a few sources of foul ether, planting saplings in their place, and consecrated the soil with a prayer to show the forest the purity of their intentions. The elementals were so taken with this display that not only did they permit his people to settle within the forest, they also bestowed upon him their blessing as proof of their new covenant, Kupo. Ah, I remember now. The Gridanians still honor the agreement to this day. For every tree that is cut down, a sapling is planted. So, if we follow history's example, we can soothe the forest's pain and also nourish it with new life. That's right, Kupo. Oh, but I wasn't finished with the story. Remember the mage who planted those sacred saplings? He was none other than Joran, sire of Ihok Pota, the very first Pajal. From that day forward, the elementals would bless a select few Hyurs with horns, favoring them with their fellowship. The Pajal were exalted by all the peoples of the Twelveswood. Even we Moogles look upon them with awe. And that's how it all began. Okay.
Something wrong, Kupo? You have a strange look on your face.
Gleipnir's poison is particularly deadly against Hyurs.
How dreadful, Kupo. But what exactly are you saying?
Well...
So the man you think may have become Gleipnir was a Pajal stripped of his blessing. And the blasphemy kills with a poison that manifests symptoms that resemble those of the creeping death.
I feel sorry for this Iasura. To love the elementals only to be shunned by them. To be surrounded by the beauty of the Twelveswood and know that he was forever an outsider. All for a child's mistake. That despair could easily have caused him to turn. And this poison that preys upon those who bear the Twelveswood's blessing, the Hyurs, just like the creeping death once did, might be another manifestation of that despair. Sounds about right. That would explain the elemental's unease, Kupo. We must redouble our efforts to plant saplings, or they might never speak to us again. Indeed. Well, first things first, we must gather as many saplings as we can. Chris, wait for us at the Artist's Nest and make ready for a long and back-breaking day. I have a feeling they're gonna try and frickin' Faust this work off on me. Just like back in Heavensward. Well, that shit ain't happening. Not again. I swear to God, if they Faust this work off on me, I might just have to kick a Moogle. Or 5. Maybe 10. Or maybe 15. Anyway, returning back to our good friend Hijack, he said he only had Paladin and Warrior done for tanks. Yeah, I pretty much prepared myself because I wasn't going into this empty-handed. Plus, Gunbreaker's usually my main. Trademark Moogle punting. Yes! Alright, let's speak with the Keeper of Entwined Serpents while I'm laughing. Welcome back, Chris. Did the Moogles have any insight into your problems? A reenactment of the ceremony which laid the foundation of Gridania. A fitting plan given the gravity of the threat that our nation now faces. As ever, there is much work to be done before we can even begin. While the Moogles gather saplings, we shall continue to scour the Twelveswood for new beasts that must be purged. Let us pray that the Elder Seedseer regains her strength quickly as well. For now, take a rest, my friend. 'Tis a rare indulgence these days, and one you've learned 1,000 times over. Alright. The next quest will be the level 89 quest, Hearts True, and we will be randomizing. I think this is the last. I'm trying to see if this is the last quest, because I forgot. I think there were only 5 quests, but oh no, we still have one more. I keep forgetting. Alright, so we'll be rolling the dice on which role we're going to use for that particular quest line. But until then, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more. If you're watching on Twitch, stay tuned. If you're watching on YouTube, here are all the links provided to get you where you need to go. See you next time.